Hello. Hello. How's everybody doing? Yeah, this is Pierre Durr. And I'm going to talk on figuring out things. I was talking to someone at work. It was just not someone who worked with me, but, I was taking a break and I was talking to someone. Anyway, he said something about, he's going to let his children figure out things. And something popped in my head and it was like, wow, figure out things. I mean, something that we take for granted, figuring out things. And then I was thinking, like, when I was Jehovah Witness, I couldn't figure out things. How important it is to figure out things. And last time I did a YouTube, I remember when I was talking to the last one when I mentioned about the not 7 day, but the Mormon person I was talking to, and I said that you have to find your own way, and it's kind of and. I put together, like finding your own way, and I thought that was really something good to talk about. This is like, again, like really deep, and it's zero in on something. And then I said, figure out this time. But when he said figure out, it was like a light bulb going in my head, and I was like, figure out. And I remember when I couldn't figure out anything. And then I wanted to think about the things that I couldn't figure out then, and my brothers and sisters will never be able to figure out. And it seems like it's so simple, but figuring out things. And I talked about it before, but now we're zeroing in on just figuring out something. Like figuring out what you're going to do with your life, okay? As a Jehovah Witness, you can't figure out what you're going to do with your life because they already figured it out for you. So what happens to that energy or whatever? So you have your life that you can't figure out, and now I figured out my life. But it goes deep when you say figuring out about your life. Like, for instance, it goes more into like, who are you? I mean, why are you here? And I know that when they give their publications and they tell everybody why they are here, and as a Jehovah Witness, you just believe it all together as one Jehovah Witness. They tell you, this is why you're here, and you go, this is why I'm here. It doesn't make any sense. But when you're in the world, this Christian world that we live in now, and you say, who am I? Okay. It's a very important question, and you can go into it deep as you want. And you can even ask help from God, from Jesus. And you can go further and further and further, and it's like every day you can do it, like I did it every day. I do it all the time. As far as you want for yourself. But when you're a Jehovah Witness, that question you never, if I called my sister, or if I could talk to her and say, who are you? Like, have you figured yourself out? Now, instead of just saying, who am I, or who are you, which is a very big question, you can say, how can I figure myself out? It's different from all the other things that I talked about. I wouldn't give a video on something exactly that I talked about before, because now we're talking about who are we? And as Jehovah Witness, you can't really have that question because you can't answer the question because they tell you who you are. So you don't really say who you are, but think about it as figuring out who you are. And there's a lot from when I used to do my comments, because now I can't do them because I'm so busy. But when I used to figure out when I saw the people, they were very, very beautiful. I'm talking about the beautiful comments and the beautiful people. And they have these things that they know about themselves. I'm talking about good things, I'm not talking about bad things. Very deep things, but they can't express to other people. Maybe it's difficult for them to express. But they figured that out after they were Jehovah Witness, okay? So I'm not just talking about figuring out like what you want to, I'm talking about going deeper and figuring out the ability to figure out things. Which you lose it as a Jehovah Witness, and which prompted me to think about, which is very hard for me to think about, is why would somebody want to do something like that to these people? I mean, I know some people just like to mess up things, but to me it seems like they have another thing, why they would go through all this trouble to enslave these people in their minds, and they can't figure out. Just think about it. I mean, they cannot figure things out. They will never be able to figure out who they are. So, and I was saying, like I said, I know some of you have some very neat personalities, and you know who you are, that you can't even express it to other people. Because I know, like even myself, it can get so deep that, okay, let's keep it with me and God about that part, okay? Okay, and because I've heard and I've talked to some of the people last year, and they were very, very, very deep, and so just figuring out who you are, but then there's other figuring out. So this figuring out thing is so big. Like for instance, figuring out yourself, then figuring out what's going to happen to the world, okay? As a Jehovah Witness, they already tell you how the world is going to be, which is wrong. But they all just say, okay, that's the way it's going to be. But we as ex-Jehovah Witnesses have to really figure out a lot. Like, when I was talking to this guy, we was talking about a lot of deep things. And the reason why I really wanted to do this thing on figuring out, because he had figured out things and I had figured out things. And I get the answer, okay? I get the answer. And because I just get the answer. Let me just put what happened. So then I was saying things and he was agreeing with me, but it wasn't like agreeing, and I wasn't like agreeing, but I was figuring out something, and I was like, well, it's one thing there, and we're trying to find that answer, but we're going about it the right way because we're figuring it out. And he was figuring it out, and I was figuring it out. And some of the things that he said I didn't think of as wrong, although I didn't figure it out that way. And some of the things I said, he didn't say you're wrong, but he didn't figure it out that way. So as I said, these are really thin lines. So if I'm talking to him and he's figuring it out and I'm figuring it out, do you see something else that appears? I can see something else that appears when he's figuring it out, I'm figuring it out, and you all are figuring it out. So that means it's like a thing that we're figuring out, And we don't have anybody to tell us this is what it is, because there's a big thing that we're after, okay? And we can find it individually because we have one source, and we got to think of it as that way, as God is our source, and without any human tampering, okay? Because there is it's just, there's religion, but it's just on earth. And I'm doing this thing on the Jewish religion, and there's no Jewish religion. There's no Jewish religion as far as the way I'm figuring it out. But on earth, there is a Jewish religion. But that's all it is. It's just for those people who want to say that they're Jewish Jewish religion. But Jewish religion has nothing to do with the birth thing that God was saying, all of his people and stuff like that. So it's like two different things. When we talk about certain like religious things, it has to be, because like I said, we're all figuring things out. But if I say, hey, this is this way, and that's that way, and this is that way, and you relieve yourself of figuring it out and say, well, I'm just going to say yes to him because that sounds good. Okay, but what are you relinquishing? That's what I'm trying to say. Do you see what I'm saying? So that means we all are figuring out, which is one thing. And then what we're figuring out is another thing. And both of those things are the same thing. So I'm trying to figure something out, and you're trying to figure the same something out. So you see? So it's best to keep it this way. So, but if we were Jehovah Witnesses, there'd be no way. We can't figure it out because they say no. And now we're in a position as an ex-Jehovah Witness to continually figure things out. So we're talking, first of all, I want to say the ability to figure out things. So you got one thing you figure out about yourself, and then figure out what's going on. Like what's going on, like Marvin Gaye, right? But I'm not talking about that. But I'm saying what's going on. So we're all figuring it out. But we have one source, if you understand what I'm talking about. But we're not going to somebody and saying, why is this or why is that? But we have something, the ability to figure out. So first of all, we have to appreciate the fact that we have the ability. I didn't have the ability. I had to work on it. I told you, it wasn't that really smart. If you look at my tapes, you can see it took me a long time. Even the way I got out of Jehovah Witness, I didn't do it by myself because I wasn't that, I couldn't figure out anything. So then I'm able to figure out things now. So we can figure out the world or what's going to happen, figure out ourselves. But then we still have a lot of other things to utilize with that ability that we have to figure out, okay? We figured out so many things this year. I did. I even was wrong at some things. I figured out about the Jehovah Witness and how it has affected me negatively in my life and how I had to make corrections. So that's figuring out. That's another thing, figuring out about the things that went wrong. But my brothers and sisters, I'm talking about my blood brothers and sisters, they will never, ever figure it out. Even if I told them, if they said something and I go, wow, how did you figure that out? They would just what? I'm just telling you, how did you figure that out? I would like to do that one time. When I I feel really guilty talking to the Jehovah Witnesses on the street because I'm really want to just get information. But if I get a chance to talk to them again, because I don't like to do undercover work like that, but when I talk to them again, I would like them to say something, and I want to say, wow, how did you figure that out? And just watch them, because they have the ability somewhere, but it's dormant. So this one is about figuring out, the ability to figure out. And just think now, we have the ability to figure out, we figured out we're figuring out who we are. And I know a lot of people are really deep. We figure out, and we would never ever be able to go that deep if we were Jehovah Witness. And so it's a thanks to God. And then we're figuring out what's happening. Jehovah Witness just say new system. But new system? That's just one little thing. And now we have, with our ability to figure out, how many things have we figured out? I even talked to my friend. I remember when she was talking about all these things she figured out. So there it goes again. So many things she figured out. But did she stop and think that, hey, I have the ability to figure out? But see, I'm like that. I figure out, okay, wait. I figured that out and I figured this out. That means I have the ability to do that. So what am I going to do with that ability? So then I check and I look at the ability that I have. And it's a big ability. I just mentioned 3 things, but there's a lot of other things. And then I was also thinking, because, my sister and my family have nice jobs. And it's funny how you can figure out things at work and stuff like that, but yet your life, you can't. And that's what the whole world is about. I mean, like, we study so many things, but we still don't know just who we are. I mean, I'm sure we do a little bit better than they do. But I'm talking about as a whole, as a human being, because you have to put your information in. Like, for instance, when you know so many things, and that's what we're doing as ex-Jehovah Witnesses, and my friend too. I mean, when we have so much information, we share the information, and that's what you're supposed to do with the information that you have. They don't have any information as Jehovah Witnesses, so I don't think they really can share anything, okay? They just want to take because we're figuring everything out for them. So that's something I want to talk, that's something I wanted to express in this video. And what I got from it is that we have this ability, and then you organize the ability. That's my big deal, is when I find that ability, now I found this ability, and I go, well, now I'm going to look at it and see what it does. And I just organized it a little bit for you, but I'm going to keep doing it. So figuring out is totally different from anything else that you do. I mean, like, if you do music, if you do art, if you're a bank teller, okay, those are all things that you can do. But figuring out the ability and looking at the ability to figure out things is another thing. I don't know why society, we all think everything is one. We think, everything is one to a certain extent. But what I'm saying, we think everything, if we find something, we go, wow. Like, don't eat this. Oh, I'm never going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it. It's so terrible. But it's not about that. It's about putting it in a perspective, putting it in a place. So now we see our figuring out that we never was able to do. And my brothers and sisters, I'm talking about my real brothers and sisters, never figured anything out, and they will never figure things out. Being a Jehovah's Witness, you will never ever figure it out. And that's probably one reason why it's so hard to get a relationship with God, Jesus, when you're a Jehovah's Witness, because they won't give you time to figure things out. You just don't have time to figure things out. So anyway, I hope that everybody got something from this. And I miss doing these, but it's so hard to come up with things. I don't like to do the same thing over and over again. So I hope everybody's doing good and enjoying your summer. I feel bad because I remember I wanted to do something, set something up for the ex-Jehovah Witnesses this year, and nothing worked out. But anyway, that's another subject. I see you later, and I hope everybody's doing great. Thank you very much, Roland.